Hey, just this week, I had a coaching experience where I was working with a managing director for a financial institution. And I said, "What's on your mind?" And he said, things are just going crazy. It's priority shift left and right, and everything's nuts all the time. And there's a lot of high stress, and we end up working extra hours and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, dang, we're going to try and solve that today. And I said, "So what's the real problem for you there?" And he said, it's just that we're constantly working on the same things over and over, like the same problems pop up, and it's just nuts. And I said, "Well, okay, if everything was solved amazingly, how would you like things to be? Like, what's a good outcome look like for you?" And he said, "Well, the effect of a good outcome anyway would be the ability to predict what's going to happen some, so we could plan for it, and maybe build some of that work-life balance that everybody talks about that seems to be so elusive." I'm talking about work-life balance. I said, "Yeah." And I took a deep breath and I said, "Any ideas?" And he said, "Nope." And I went, and he went, and I gave it a second for him to think. And I said, "Well, why don't we just throw out some ideas? Let's brainstorm a little bit." And right away he had one. He said, "Well, instead of financial like planning, instead of like forecasting for the whole year, maybe we could forecast for each quarter so we have a better idea of what's coming up so we could hire appropriately for that." I said, "That's a pretty good idea. Anything else?" And he said, "Well, we do onboarding, and maybe what we do is build a training program, a distinct training program for newer associates so they get up to speed faster." I said, "That sounds good. Any other ideas?" And he said, "Well, we could approach that training with like that whole 80-20 thing, where like 20% of your tasks get 80% of the work done. And that way we could focus the training on the things that really matter." And I said, "That sounds pretty good. Out of those things, is there anything that connects with you that you feel like you want to do?" He said, "Well, if we do the third one, that kind of takes care of the second one. So maybe we'll forecast quarterly and build an 80-20 plan for building training for junior associates." I said, "Great. So when?" And he said, "Yeah, probably next week." And I said, "Okay, good. When next week?" He said, "Oh, hold on a minute." And he got into his calendar and he said, "Well, at Monday at 3, why don't hold on a minute? I'll make an appointment with one of my directors." I said, "Great." We started off with everything is crazy here and priorities shift all over the place. Can y'all relate? You know what I'm talking about? We started with a big problem. I got to tell you, I'm like that half of the time when we start coaching processes. And at the end, we're going to forecast quarterly, and we're going to build a targeted training program so that junior associates can get up to speed quicker and take some of the load off. If he does that, do you think it's going to make a difference? Do you think it's possible that he'll do it now that he has an appointment to do it? These are the secrets of professional coaches. What's interesting is the coaching process helped that to happen. And really, that was him. That wasn't me. That wasn't the coach. That was him. And today we're going to reveal the secrets of that, the structure behind it. What's cool is it's not even that complicated. It is based in the psychology of how human beings make decisions. And at Gravity Learning, we are big into science and, so what's really happening? We're talking about jury journal, like professional peer-reviewed studies, and then turning that into action. So it won't be hug a coworker. It'll be, this is what's real, and this is what you can do with it step by step. You will leave today having really done this stuff, right? Gaining skills like step-by-step processes and trying it on for size. So you can look forward to that. I know there are a bunch of free webinars out there, and this isn't one of those. This is a workshop. We're going to get our hands on. We're going to ask questions. We're going to try things out. We'll practice our tools. At Gravity, we call it rehearsal. It's not role play, right? And so you can look forward to that. And if you're a note taker, please feel free to take notes. Research shows very conclusively that we forget about half of our insights, like the big ones, in an hour. It's called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve if you want to fall into a Wikipedia hole, right? And so when you write something down, it tends to stay 3 to 4 times longer. And at the same time, we will send out cheat sheets and we'll share the slide deck with you. We're not stingy about such things. our normal workshops are 2 hours, and sometimes it's a series of 2-hour workshops. And so today we'll take a slice out of coaching. Good. So hey, my name's David Lieberman. I'm one of the founders here at Gravity Learning. I'm joined by one of the other founders, Tom Vorvis. Tom, can you say hi real quick?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this 1-hour amazing workshop. I hope you get as much out of it as I did when I attended it the first time. Enjoy.
Thanks, Tom. You might see Tom pop into the discussion groups or breakouts. And just so you know, you'll probably see that that we're recording. We'll send out the recording after. What doesn't get recorded is private conversations in the breakouts, though. All right. We're going to invite you to join us on camera. There's some fascinating research coming out about what happens when we don't have the camera on. And the one that is most impactful is you almost can't help but multitask. Yeah. When your camera's off, you are like an email, aren't you? And plus, it's just so much more human if we're learning human skills to see the human in front of us. And so if we're going to dive into some human skills today, basically what we're looking into is the main structure of how coaching really works. And most good things start with a conversation, and that's how Gravity Learning workshops start as well. You might consider writing this down. This is going to be the topic of the conversation. When we pop into the breakouts, every single time people are like, what are we talking about again? So it's this. This is what we're talking about. And also there's this really strong human urge to say, oh, hi, I'm David. Where do you work? And then all of a sudden the discussion is gone. And so we can resist that today and instead just jump right into it. It's a pretty interesting discussion, isn't it? For you, what is the professional achievement that you are most proud of? It could be at any time in your career. Yeah. You'll have 3 or 4 people in your room with you, depending on the math of things. And we will have we're going to have 5 minutes. Let's do 5 total minutes. So it'll be 4 minutes and a 1-minute countdown. If you're someone who can talk for 3 minutes, you know who you are, right? We might have to keep it targeted. And then afterwards, I'll reach out kind of randomly to get thoughts and things that people are noticing. We don't need a play-by-play. Please, it doesn't need to be so-and-so said such and such. All right, folks. So we will see you in a minute here. Hold on, let me adjust a thing. Enjoy. How was the discussion for y'all?
Eye-opening. Just that reflection on something I'm most proud of. And for me, it was 13 years ago that I stagnated for a long time. I got complacent. I was happy. I was doing a good job, but I wasn't doing anything groundbreaking. And so I don't need to always change the world and change myself. And I don't know, but it would be nice to make some positive, noteworthy changes.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of breaking a world record every day is probably not right.
Yeah.
Welcome back, folks. It's an interesting conversation to have, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we reach out to a couple of folks? Let's go to Kalinga and then John and then Connor. And maybe you can say a little bit about your experience or what you noticed. We don't need a play-by-play, you know what I mean? John said this and Jeff said that. 20 or 30 seconds is fine. Kalinga, can you kick us off?
I mean, the essential theme of the group I was in, I had Brian and Shara, was that we each had a moment in our career where we were faced with a very scary and uncertain choice or situation that we are now able to look back on because we made the jump, we made the leap, and now we can look back and say, wow, I did that. Whether it was building a great team or taking on a new role or becoming a manager. That was our theme.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not that scary, if there's not that much on the line, it usually doesn't turn into that. Fantastic. John, how about you?
Yeah, I think we sort of centered on two themes along knowledge certification type of thing. So achieving a new level of knowledge and also successful change in focus. So dealing with a sort of a path curve in the career and dealing with that successfully. And we also talked a little bit about a lot, for several of us, achievements from many, many years ago kind of popped into mind first. We tried to kind of focus on recent stuff, but, it's interesting, again, I guess at the beginning of your career, it's easier to do things that are groundbreaking for you.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Kalinga mentioned moving into manager and what a huge change that is.
Yeah.
Right. So we're talking about change and taking things to a new level. Nice. Connor, how about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. We had some nice discussion, really themes of stepping into our courage, approaching and overcoming some adversity and challenges successfully, and sort of what that process was, and then also this theme of listening to really understand perhaps the message beyond what's being said.
Yeah, when we're talking about things that are hard, listening is so easy for us as human beings, isn't it? Right. And Connor, if you don't mind, I'm going to steal stepping into our courage. What a cool phrase. You know what's interesting is when you ask people, hey, what are you most proud of professionally? Nobody says, oh, there was this thing and it wasn't that hard and somebody told me to do it and I went and did it. You know what I mean? It's always overcoming some big thing where people are like, I don't know what to do. And I'm scared, or there's a big decision, or I feel stuck somewhere, or I'm not sure I'm going to make it. You know what I mean? Those kinds of things. And that's what coaching is for. You know, coaching, whoever decided to call it coaching did us a bit of a disservice, because we all know what like sports coaches do. They say, hey, do it like this. No, you're not doing it right. Do it like that. And then once you get it, they drill the heck out of you over and over and over again. Yeah. And a professional coach, a professional business coach is almost the exact opposite. The professional business coach, well, here, everybody loves having a slide for the major points, so check it out. At Gravity Learning, we call our coaching style, we call it guided problem solving, or GPS, because we think we're clever, right? And here's basically how coaching works in general. You, the coach, ask some questions, and the coachee figures it out, right? So you don't have to have the answers. In fact, it works better if you don't. Now, to be clear, as a leader or a manager, what we're not trying to say is, hey, now you have to use coaching to solve everything. In fact, it gets really weird if you do. It's not made to replace telling people what to do or teaching them how to do something, or a mentor is designed for, hey, I have a lot of experience, let me tell you how to do it. It's not that. And it certainly isn't trying to solve your deeply seated psychological things that you're wrestling with, right? It's not therapy. In fact, there are only a couple of things that coaching works really well for. And new coaches, this is one of the big secrets, is when to use it and when not to, right? So here, check it out. If you want to take a note, here's what coaching works great for. It works great for solving big problems where you're like, I don't know. And they're like, I don't know. It works really well for making tough decisions. And every once in a while, you as a leader or a manager, somebody comes to you with something. They're like, hey, Tom really made me upset the other day. What should I do? And you kind of have an answer for them, and you think this is a growth moment. It's probably better if I don't tell them what to do. By the way, Tom never upsets me, so thank you, Tom. It doesn't work for teaching a technical process. If something's urgent, man, just tell them what to do, right? If you're like, this person really needs to grow in this direction, you're not holding a ninja performance conversation with coaching or getting them to try and figure out like what they're doing wrong. That's not it, right? It's really only for solving big problems or making big decisions. Y'all good with that? Now, it seems like today you throw a rock and you hit a professional coach because it works. And frankly, it's not even that hard. You're going to learn how to do most of it today. What is important, though, is as a leader or a manager, if you don't have like a bi-weekly coaching session set, you end up using it sort of like in the hall or in the moment. And this is really important. If you try and pull out your coaching like techniques and use them on someone, it's going to be weird. They're going to see you doing it. It's going to feel manipulative. It's going to feel like condescending. I've had people who knew I was a certified coach who were also coaches who were like, well, David, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I see what you're doing. So here's the thing. If you're going to use some of these skills later, we need to be transparent about it. And there's a very, very easy way to enter into that conversation. If somebody brings you a big problem, or a decision they need to make, or there's a growth moment there. Here's how you keep it from being weird. Ready? You say, well, why don't we see if we can figure it out? Or do you want to throw around some ideas? Or, well, how about we talk about it? Or, the idea that you're bringing into the light that together you are going to enter into solving a conversation. When they say, yeah, let's do that, and then you start asking them questions, then it doesn't feel weird. You know what I mean? Because they just said, let's get with it. All right. So if the only thing you leave with today is that coaching isn't for you telling them how to do, it's for them solving their own big problems and making decisions. And that if you try to use the techniques on somebody behind the scenes, it's really weird. It's a very in the open thing. If that's what you leave with, then great. I mean, we've got a lot more. Any questions, or Tom, anything popping up in the chat or anything like that so far?
I've got a question, David. What if you have a strong relationship with someone and you haven't formalized this coach relationship or coach environment, and you see the opportunity? How would you go about that?
Yeah, so it's okay if you haven't formalized a coaching relationship to say, well, do you want to talk about it? Maybe we can bounce some ideas off each other. And then you just start asking the questions that we'll go through today, right? If they say, yeah, that sounds great, then it's not weird, right? Because you just formalized the relationship before you got into the conversation. Is that addressing what you're talking about though, Brian?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm often cornered in my role for advice. And sometimes coaching is probably the better solution rather than just giving my input. So I think the formalization of a verbal contract, if you will, there is probably smart.
Absolutely. Right. And again, we're not trying to say stop giving people advice. It's just that's not coaching. Okay.
David, just real quick, I love the way you talked about what coaching is and isn't. We had a coaching workshop with our sales leaders last weekend, going over the GROW model, which is probably somewhat similar in some ways. But one of the things is it's not a solution for everything, right? You have a situational leadership model. Someone has never done a task before. You can't ask them the questions to get them to that point for the most part. So there are places to tell. And then there's also counseling sessions where there's someone who's truly not performing, and it's a whole separate issue. So I just love the distinction you made. It was very helpful.
Yeah, thank you. And that's one of the biggest issues. A manager learns how to coach and then they start trying to use it everywhere. And it's not applicable for everything. The GROW model that Matt is talking about is one of the acronyms that professional coaches follow to move them through their coaching sessions. It's more applicable for someone who meets every other week with a professional coach than it is in the hallway. And it's still a very strong model. All right, so hey, we're going to really do this today. And so you will try coaching with one of your co-workshoppers here. And so let's make it real. What problem would you like to solve, or a decision you'd like to make? Let's pick something you're comfortable talking about. All right, again, the breakouts where we'll do this aren't recorded, so you can pick something that you'd rather not be recorded and are comfortable talking about. Let's pick something real. Y'all have something real? Okay, here we go. Ready? You're like, well, how do we do it, David? What's nice is that there's really only two major things that you need to get good at to be a good professional coach. And here comes the first one. When you decide that, hey, I'm entering into a coaching conversation, remember, coaching is specifically not telling them what to do. It's them figuring it out themselves. Ready? Here we go. Keep your advice to yourself. Who in here likes giving advice when they know what they're talking about? Everyone, right? Everyone loves that. Who in here is a helpful person? Right? Kind of evolutionarily, that's built into us. When you see someone struggling and you know what to do, it is so hard to keep your mouth shut. It's so hard. It's so hard. I struggle with it almost every time. And here's what you might do. When you give in, because you probably will, when you give in and give advice, watch that person's face. Here's what happens to their face, right? They go, yeah, that's true. That's good advice. Their face falls. When you give advice, what you're kind of doing behind the scenes is telling them, like, you're not smart enough to figure this out yourself. Let me do it for you. Right? And man, what a growth moment when they get there. Now, in our longer workshops, we have this whole exercise about keeping your advice to yourself, where we ask coworkers, like, hey, where's somewhere you'd like to grow? And then we can ask questions, but not give them any advice. And it's so hard. It's so hard. At Gravity, our main thing, even though our name is learning, Gravity Learning, our main thing isn't really learning. It's whether or not people use any of this stuff ever again. And so normally we hook you up with another person in the workshop. We do a peer partner. That's a 33% boost in whether or not you use any of this stuff later, just to have a conversation. And we also set little homework assignments for ourselves during the workshop. Here, we're going to do one today. Here's your first one. Ready? Who in your real life might you have a conversation with where you don't really offer anything? You ask some questions, right, and listen to them. Can you write down a real person's name? Can you put a when on it? We get deep into the science of time management in our time management workshops. Do you know what's number one about whether or not you do something or not? It's whether or not it's in your calendar at a specific time. We talk about due on dates, not due dates. By the way, the person that you're doing this with will probably not even notice. They'll be like, wow, that was such a great conversation for them. All right, so that's the first part. Is when you're in a conversation, a coaching conversation, and you've decided, let's try it. The main point of like, oh, I got to hold on to that is keeping your advice to yourself the whole way through. Any questions before we move on? Okay, here comes the second part. There's only 2 parts to get good at it. Here's the second part. Ready? It's a process. Follow the process. You're like, oh yeah, but I'm really good with language. Nope, follow the process. You're like, I have an idea of like where this should go. Nope, follow the process. The process is specifically designed to follow the human decision-making process, right? You're not really leading it. You're just helping the coachee bring out their decision that most of the time is kind of in their brain already. Right? This comes from research that started at the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth, where the psychology department got together with the marketing department, talking about how do people make decisions as far as buying. And it turns out people make decisions in the same sort of way all the time. And so the system that we'll go at here is designed specifically to key right into that process. Making sense? That's why we stay there instead of sidetracks. You ready to see the process? I know you are. Here we go. Ready? Here it is. If you want to write down the 5 steps, then here we go. And by the way, we will send out the cheat sheet and the slide deck and all that business later. Hey, real quick caveat. At Gravity Learning, we bring a lot of psychologically designed and tested structures, and very rarely do we say it like this, because it comes out fake. You have to add your own sort of language to it. And there are a couple of exceptions. In fact, there are 3 in all of our curriculum, and 2 of them are coming up right now, right? So these are specifically designed for effect. When you as the coach are starting the conversation, if you say, so what's going on? Then they tell you, there's this big story about then this happened and then that happened and then I did this and blah, blah. You know what I'm talking about? This is the way to start a conversation and take care of all that. So what's on your mind? Let's write to what's on their mind. It's not a backstory. All that goes away. If the only thing you take from today is what's on your mind. So here's the thing, they tell you, they're like, well, this and that and that and this. And you wait until you understand it. And then you confirm your understanding with them, right? You paraphrase, you're like, so if I'm understanding, it's this or that. And they go, yeah. That's when it's time to move on to the next. Every time they're like, yes, you move on. Here's the second one, ready? What we're really doing here today is we're problem solving. Now, this is a really interesting design to this question, because it's what's the real problem? And people are like, oh, real problem, huh? And what's the real problem for you? Because a lot of times people want to talk about like their coworker or this or that, or yeah, but for you, what's the real problem? You ask this question, watch people go, oh, good question. For real. Okay, so now we've got a problem and now we can solve that problem, right? Yeah, no. Because here's the thing. If we solve a problem, the only thing that happens is the problem goes away. We don't really get what we want. I'm lonely, so I got a girlfriend. Am I happy now? I don't know about that, right? Because maybe I solved a problem, but I didn't get what I want. Human beings have a real strong bias for as soon as we have a problem, we try to solve it. It's called the solution bias. And we tend to jump on the first one that sounds good. It's called the first solution bias, right? So we're going to circumvent those biases by saying, well, okay, let's say everything turns out amazingly. What's amazing look like for you? What's a good outcome? You will probably, this is the toughest part of the whole process, because people will try to start solving their problem. You'll have to say, yeah, hold on a minute. Let's say you did something and it turned out great. What does great look like? If they go, oh, what I really want is this. Now you're there. All right. So, hey, what's on your mind? Oh, interesting. So what's the real problem for you there? Oh, okay. So you're saying it's this and that? And they say, yes. You're like, all right, so how do you want things to be? So we can go get that. Once you as the coach understand that, there's only 5 steps. Here's the 4th one. Any ideas? Notice that these aren't sentences to say. You'll have to make these happen on your own. Any ideas? Possible solutions there? Notice it says solutions. Sometimes people come up with fantastic solutions right away, and sometimes not so much. As a coach, for you, if the solution is you don't think it's that great, you can say, oh, great. Anything else? What else? Any other ideas? If they get really stuck, brainstorm. Let's throw things out. Right? If they get really stuck, it's okay. So what would be a first step then? It's very rare when somebody knows what they want and they can't figure out a first step. Good. So now we know what we're going to do. Are we going to do it? There is no shortage of human genius, right? There's no shortage of, I know what to do. There's a huge shortage of doing anything. So that's what this last step is for. It's for, let's make sure a thing happens. Guided problem solving is directed towards action. Here's the last step. Get an action out of them. You're going to have to wrestle. You're going to have to say, okay, so when? Great, so when next week? Great, so what time on Wednesday? Can we pick an actual time in your calendar? Sometimes I explain to people why I'm asking, because I feel like a pushy jerk face. But it works, man, it works. All right, here's the process. We are saying, like, help me out with what's on your mind, not what's going on. What's the problem so we can solve it? The real problem for you. Well, okay, let's say we solve that. How do you want things to be? We know where we are. We know where we're trying to get. Now we can decide, how do we get there? You come up with a couple ideas. You happen to pick one, and let's get something on our calendar. You don't have to do the whole thing. Just starting works okay. That's the process. That's the secret, really. That it's just a process. All you have to do is walk through it, and they think you're Yoda. For real, I've had people say, you're like Yoda. I'm like, I'm just asking 5 questions. Let's reach out for a couple of like reactions. I feel like I've been here a long time. Why don't we go to let's go to Scott, and then maybe Jennifer, and then April. Maybe you can just say a little bit about your thoughts, or if you have a question, or what's on your mind, or a reaction. Really whatever's going on up there is fine. Scott, can you lead us off?
Sure, yeah, I get the process that you're talking about. I'm just trying to figure out where it's going to apply when I'm going to do it. I mean, one of the things I was thinking about is I have a person that works on the team that has an issue with somebody else, and I'm going, oh, should this be a coaching process that I should do? Kind of has to do with, scope of work, so it's not that they're going head to head. And I'm thinking, well, I already know what the solution is, and I got to keep my mouth shut. So I'm not sure if this does apply, and that's where I'm struggling. Is I kind of get that there's big picture issues that you might go through this, but does this apply to kind of the smaller issue that I'm talking about?
Yeah, most of the time, to answer your question, because I know it's a struggle. Do I do it now?
Mhm.
Most of the time, there's an easy cue, because the problem that they have, you're like, I don't know. The decision they're trying to make, you're like, that's a big decision, right? Coaching works fantastically for that.
Okay.
I see, Scott, you're struggling with is this a growth moment, right? And so if you decide that it is, the most important part is to get their okay that, hey, can we try and figure this out together? And maybe I can ask you some questions and see if you got an answer there for it. Nice.
Okay.
How about you, Jennifer? What are your thoughts so far? Oh, I see your mouth moving, and it's not making noise, interestingly enough. And you're unmuted and everything. Well, why don't we just sort of jump on over? Why don't we go to how about Richard? What are your thoughts? Oh, Jennifer in the chat has just took a course on clean language. It sounds cool. What do you like to have happen? What do you want to have happen is the key to solving problems. People come up with ideas when you don't skip that step. Fantastic. How about you, April? What's your reactions here?
Yeah, I think it's great. In my role in the company, I'm an HR business partner. Coaching is every day for me, and definitely tough to just kind of shut up and not provide solutions to whatever it is that we're talking about. And they always feel like, well, you're HR, you can solve this for me, but not necessarily. And so these are really powerful in kind of adjusting the conversation so that they can come up with the solutions that work for them. And then maybe if there's something in there where I can kind of steer them in a better direction, then I can do that. But really the decision and the plan should come from them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes the steering is they come up with an idea you don't love and you're like, oh, what else? Right. And sometimes the steering is they come up with a great idea and you grab onto it.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So, hey, we're going to demo it. Full transparency, we're going to try it with Tom Vorvis, who does work at Gravity. And I don't know what he's going to talk about. So we're going to wing it. So I asked him specifically not to tell me. He's familiar with the process, so it might go a little smoother than normal. So here we go. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind?
Recently, what's been on my mind is I'd love to be quicker and more effective with my business writing. I don't feel like I feel like I'm wasting a lot of time when I'm doing my business writing. That's what's on my mind.
Okay, so if I understand you right, business writing, you're talking like email and putting together like projections or proposals, and it's just
all of that. Yeah, all of that.
So, what's the real problem for you there?
The real problem is that I feel I waste a lot of time where I could be faster, and I want to feel a bit more confident in my results when I hit the send button or when I send something over to someone as an attachment. I want that confidence that I got it. Wonderful.
Okay, so it's not just about the speed; it's about confidence as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if I'm hearing you right, like the two are tied together. That may be a reason that it's taking you a long time is because of confidence. Is that right?
That's probably spot on.
Okay. So let's say you did something and it turned out fantastically. What's a good outcome look like for you? What's fantastic look like, I guess?
fantastic looks like when I'm tasked with either a simple email response, or I've got a proposal I need to write, or an instruction sheet. I feel like the stuff that's in my head flows out through my hands easily. That's what looks perfect for me. Just like, I got it, because it is all up here, but when it goes this way, out through the hands and then over to the recipient, I'm always questioning myself, is this making the point? Do they really get it? So what would look great is I'm confident that they get it, and I'm confident I made myself clear.
Okay. So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're talking about like what would be optimal is if you're confident and stuff gets out of your head faster and into the like communication, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it seems like it takes me a long time.
Okay. Any ideas? What could you do if what you want is confidence and like out of your head faster?
I really don't know what's the next step. I suppose maybe some videos, or maybe some research, or a mentor. I don't know.
Okay, so those are some ideas. You've got like watch a video or talk to a mentor. What else? If what you want is confidence and like getting your ideas out of your head, anything else?
Maybe a writing class.
Okay. I know places where they have writing classes, by the way.
What?
Anything else, Tom?
I can't think of anything else right now.
Okay. Any like crazy ideas up there?
Crazy idea. I suppose crazy idea would be go to a writing retreat and have Gravity Learning pay for a week of a retreat where I can just learn to write.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to put that by procurement.
Okay, that's a crazy idea.
So here are the ideas we've got. Let's start watching some videos about doing what you're trying to do, or taking a workshop, or get Gravity to pay for a retreat. Out of those three, are there any that you're willing to take on and try?
I think I feel that the video idea, watching some writing videos, say YouTube or LinkedIn Learning, maybe I could start there.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you're talking about like looking on LinkedIn Learning or YouTube about like getting your thoughts out of your head and confidently onto the paper screen or whatever. Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's a big question for you, Tom. When can you start like looking for and watching those videos?
Well, I'll try to make some time next week.
So when next week, Tom?
Let's see when I have some time. How about I'll do it on Tuesday.
Okay. When on Tuesday? Can you pop your calendar for real? Can you pop your calendar and put a time in there?
All right. I'll do it at 3:00 on Wednesday. I'm going to set aside an hour on Tuesday. I'll set aside an hour on Tuesday at 3:00.
Thank you.
Are you happy?
Are you happy?
I'm very happy. Thank you for that.
Did y'all see the process? Man, you threw me for a couple of loops there. You're like, I don't know. And I was like, oh, here we go. Right. So what's on your mind? What's the real problem though for you? And we got out the real problem was confidence is what it was. It wasn't speed, it was confidence. What's a good outcome look like? It comes out of his head faster. Right. Any possible solutions? I was thinking maybe he'd say like, oh yeah, I'll start like recording on the voice dictation or something like that. And he's like, well, watch some videos. Anything else? Anything else? All right. Which of those sounds good? Did you see me have to push for a time? Right. I think he threw that one on purpose, but like, that's super normal. Questions or thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I do have a thought. Just kind of listening to the both of you guys kind of play this out, and the first thing that you had actually put up was, ask questions and then paraphrase the answers. And I actually seeing it in action, with the paraphrasing, I think that actually really helps, and I think that really drives it in, because I hear you saying it back several times, David, about what Tom provided to you. And it makes me feel like, okay, you're really listening, and you're really trying to not say anything, and pretty much just saying exactly what Tom has said. And I think that really kind of pushes Tom to provide you with more answers and solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. That paraphrasing works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We, in our communication workshops, we push real hard that paraphrasing isn't saying back to them what they said to you. It's checking to make sure that your understanding is correct. I'm like, wait, am I getting, is it this? Is that right? And he's like, yes. And then I'm like, okay, now I got it. Sometimes they're like, no, that's not what I meant at all, David. And I'm like, okay. All right, beautiful. So, hey, check it out. Let's write down the 5 steps or take a screenshot, or I've seen people taking like pictures on their phone here. Maybe the first 50 times, 50, I did coaching, I had the step sitting right up next to me. I think I'm pretty good with language, and there were so many times I wanted to take it in a different direction. It's not about me. It's about pulling them through their normal decision-making process. So, questions about it? Have we got time for a question or so? All right, folks. So at Gravity, we're big into the science of things, the decision-making studies from the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth and all that business. And we're very big into let's make real steps that actually really work. We demonstrate every time, like we did now. In the normal coaching classes, we just pick someone from the workshop and we do it. It's turned out successful every time, which is great. Except if you never practice it, you're not really going to use it, right? And so we're going to rehearse right now. The way we're going to do this is we're going to give you a partner and 10 minutes and 9 minutes, it looks like now. One of you is going to have to choose who's going to be the coach and who's going to answer the questions. And let's move through the process together. Today, you might consider answering a question and moving on, take it easy on them because we've only got 10 minutes. And often this is like a 20-minute conversation. You know what I mean? Let's give it a shot. Let's see how it's going to work. So again, the way it's going to work is we are going to partner you up. Let me make this happen here. Looks like there'll be a group of 3 because of math. And well, maybe not. There we go. And choose who will be the coach and start with what's on your mind. Are you comfortable just doing the 5 steps? All right, folks, we are going to do, it looks like we've got 8 minutes and a 1-minute countdown. So it'll give you 1 minute and you can hit that button and hang out with me or finish up your conversation. Let's see if we can make it work. See y'all soon. All right, folks, welcome back. It's kind of cool to see people pop in. It's like I see April. I'm like Miss Nancy nowadays. Let's get a reaction or 2. We don't have much time left, but I'd love to hear how it felt for y'all. Why don't we go to Corinne and then Richard, and maybe you can do 20 seconds or so of your impressions or your thoughts. Corinne?
Okay. Hi, I was the person who was a coach in that intervention. It felt good. And I would say that the thing was I could easily talk to that coach because I had there were no political issues. There's not someone from the organization who may repeat it to somebody else. So it was full trust.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that places pay some pretty good money to bring in professional coaches. By the way, Gravity provides coaching services. All right. How about you, Richard? What are your thoughts?
I was the coach and Donna was the coachee. You should probably ask him how it was. It feels fairly natural to me in terms of asking some questions because I don't know Donna from a bar of soap. So really, I need to ask questions to better understand, which is what I should do when people come to me with problems in the first place, because they're the closest to the problem. So the fact that I think my advice is going to solve this problem is probably a bit egotistical on my behalf, right? Versus, hey, Don is the closest to this. If I ask him those questions, he's the one who can best describe the situation, the problem, and think through how those solutions may work because he's familiar with the situation, the people involved. I have no idea. So you should ask him, but whether it was any value at all whatsoever. So.
Really well said. And the thing is that even if you knew Dono more than a bar of soap, like you still don't really, I mean, who really
Still don't know him,
knows?
yeah.
Right. What if y'all want to stick around after, then I'd love to hear Donna's feedback. And because we've got about a minute left, and by the way, we'll be hanging around for half an hour or so if you want to get deeper into it or ask questions about working with Gravity or just nerd out about this stuff, we're into it. Here's the big stuff, right? We said we'd give away the secrets. Here are the secrets. It's only for tough problems and big decisions, or if there's a growth opportunity. That's it. You want to be really transparent about it. The biggest secret probably is, man, keep your advice to yourself. Once you decide you're getting into it, it'll be a challenge for you. Some of you all were challenged already, right? And then all you have to do is stick to the 5 steps. That's maybe the biggest secret, right? It seems so mysterious, and it's just we do this step and then this step and this step and that step. That's how coaches make it happen. If you want a little secret, like Lynn was talking about, that paraphrasing before we move on really makes people feel listened to, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Out of everything today, in the chat, maybe you can write a word or two about like, what will you find most useful? Not necessarily what do you like the most, but what do you use? What do you find most useful? If we're here to make a difference, what's that difference? Gravity, we reach out in 30 days talking about, are you guys using any of this stuff? Is it making a difference? We get to real ROI measurements. If you're a data person, we'd love to tell you how it works. It's really cool. What do we have here? Listening and inquiring is greater than advice. The 5 steps. Yeah. Keep your advice to yourself. That's my biggest challenge. Knowing when it's appropriate, the structure. Yeah, thank you, John. When we're learning something new, having a structure is really, really the way to go, isn't it? When to use it. Man, talk about an hour just flying by, doesn't it? That's how it happens when things are cool. Hey, hopefully you've enjoyed the experience here of the shortened down workshops, the way they really work in real life. Normally we'll have assignments and then hook you up with a partner and then meet up again later. For Gravity Learning, I'm David Laberman. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And if you want to hang out and have a convo, then please feel free. And if you have to jump, then that's modern life, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. Pleasure, everyone. Pleasure.